The megagroup was founded in 1991 by Wexler and Charles Bronfman to add greater clout to the Israeli lobby by establishing an informal but all-powerful policy-making group. We're just going to make an all-powerful policy-making group. No big deal. The megagroup is only one aspect of a large network, and it is all generally aimed at promoting the interests of these neoconservatives and the Likud party of Israel in order to basically conquer and take over the greater Middle East as part of the Greater Israel Project, and basically take all that real estate for themselves by military force, using the United States as their dummy, right? And getting the dumb Americans, the dumb illiterate warmongering Americans, to go and do the work for them. But we've already fallen for that too many times, and we're not going to fall for it again. Under the innocent headline, Titans of Industry joined forces to work for Jewish philanthropy, Wall Street Journal staff reporter Lisa Miller reported on an April 1998 gathering of some 20 Jewish billionaires at the Manhattan apartment of hedge fund manager Michael Steinhardt. That gathering involved some of the most powerful names in the Jewish lobby in America, starting with Edgar Bronfman, the chairman of the World Jewish Congress. Others included Charles Bronfman, Edgar's brother and a top executive of the family's flagship Seagram's Corp., Leslie Wexner of Limited Inc., Charles Schusterman, chairman of Samson Investment Co. of Tulsa, Oklahoma, Harvey Bud Meyerhoff, a fabulously wealthy and powerful Baltimore real estate magnate, Lawrence Tisch, Max Fisher, Detroit oil magnate and Republican Party powerhouse, bagel magnate Max Linder, and Leonard Abramson, founder of U.S. Healthcare. According to the Journal report, the megagroup was founded in 1991 by Wexler and Charles Bronfman to add greater clout to the Israeli lobby by establishing an informal but all-powerful policy-making group. We're just going to make an all-powerful policy-making group. No big deal. To deploy billions of dollars in charitable funds for the maximum effect on U.S. policy toward Israel, the Mideast, and other issues of paramount importance to the Jewish mega-billionaires. The megagroup convenes twice a year for two-day sessions where, behind closed doors, the members make life or death decisions affecting U.S. policy. Membership is by invitation only. The meetings are secret. The Wall Street Journal story was the only coverage to ever appear in the U.S. media about the existence of the megagroup before the publication of this Executive Intelligence Review account. And the members each kick in $30,000, do annual dues to cover operating expenses for the twice-yearly sessions. Charles Bronfman reflected the megagroup's propensity for secrecy when he told the Journal's Lisa Miller, "From the beginning, we didn't want to be seen as a threat to anybody." And that still pertains. We don't want to be seen as the Sanhedrin, a reference to the highest court of the ancient Jews. We don't want to be looked at crooked. Charles' far more sinister and slick brother Edgar tried to dismiss the activities of the megagroup, telling Miller, "We want to make it cool to be Jewish." Not so cool. But then a March 13, 2001 dispatch by the Jewish Telegraph Agency revealed that the megagroup is more than a loose bunch of Jewish billionaires out to do good. The JTA reported that newly installed Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon was about to launch a two-pronged propaganda offensive inside the United States, aimed at winning American support for his plans to overturn the Mideast peace process. First, the JTA revealed the Sharon government announced that it was hiring two U.S. public relations firms, Rubenstein Associates and Morris Carrick and Gutma, to peddle the Israeli government's spin inside the U.S. media and in policymaking circles in New York and Washington. The JTA wire continued, quote, "More controversially, a handful of Jewish mega-donors has created a think tank they hope will generate long-term strategies for presenting Israel in a favorable light." The new think tank, Emet, the Hebrew word for truth, JTA reported, is the collective brainchild of Leonard Abramson, Edgar Bronfman, and Michael Steinhardt, three of the leading megagroup members. JTA made no mention of mega. The megagroup is expected to kick in $7 million to launch the new organization, with the Israeli Foreign Ministry also pledged to pony up $1 million in startup cash. But lest there be any confusion about who's in charge at Emet, JTA revealed that the group consulted with Malcolm Hoylein, Abe Foxman, and other Jewish activists, and only then notified Israel's foreign ministry, Foxman said. Hoylein, the executive vice president of the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, that's a mouthful, is a fanatical backer of the Sharon war drive, a view he shared with the just-retired president of the group. Ronald Lauder, a big Sharon financial backer who met with Sharon in September 2000, just before the latter staged his provocation at the Islamic holy sites on the Temple Mount / Al-Haram al-Sharif in Jerusalem, triggering the ongoing violence. The Emmet project has been criticized inside Israel by foreign ministry officials and peace activists alike. As JTA reported, some foreign ministry officials grumbled that American Jews were poaching on their turf. Not surprisingly, they would prefer that any extra money be funneled to the ministry's efforts. Israel's left appeared concerned that the hawkish American Jews will use Emmet to push a hardline approach to the peace process. Steinhardt, Bronfman, and Abramson refused to talk about the project, but the enthusiastic endorsement for Emmet from Morton Klein, president of the hawkish Zionist Organization of America, is strong confirmation that the outfit will peddle Sharon's warline. As EIR reported recently, Klein led a delegation of right-wing Zionists and evangelical Christians in a White House meeting where they threatened a presidential representative with a cutoff of support if Bush attempted to interfere in Sharon's war crimes. See Anton Chaikin, Temple Mount fanatics seek to blackmail Bush, EIR, August 24, 2001. The power of money. The mega group story came full circle on May 5, 2001 with the publication of a story in an obscure Israeli online publication, Media Monitors Network, by writer Israel Shamir. Shamir noted with no lack of irony the meeting of the mega group, which had taken place the previous day at the Manhattan mansion of Edgar Bronfman. Shamir first described a meeting he had recently had with a Vermont-based psychoanalyst, the nephew of Israel's first prime minister, David Ben-Gurion. The nephew prided himself on the fact that his closest friends were Palestinians and that he rejected the idea of a Jewish tribal identity, preferring to view all human beings as brethren. Shamir observed, "That is the last thing that the bosses want. I would not be amazed if they discussed it yesterday when they met in the Edgar Bronfman mansion in Manhattan. The head of the World Jewish Congress hosted a meeting of the 50 richest and most powerful Jews of the US and Canada. There was no press coverage, no limelight, just a few lines in the newspapers. They agreed to launch a PR program under the Orwellian codename of Truth with the purpose of influencing American public opinion regarding Israeli policies." Shamir continued, "The megabucks call themselves the Mega Group. This name appeared in the media a couple of years ago as a name for the secret Israeli mole in the upper reaches of the U.S. establishment. It came up in an overheard phone conversation, later denied by the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. The newshounds and spook watchers got it wrong. Mega was not an agent. Mega was the boss." With some bitterness, Shamir wrote, "Megabucks influence us, even more than they influence the U.S. Our politicians are as weak and corrupt as America's, and they are easier to swing. Even relative small-timers can cause eruption and bloodshed, like the California bingo parlor owner Irving Moskovitz, who pushed our ex-Prime Minister Netanyahu to open the tunnel under the Haram al-Sharif. The megabucks can buy Israel with their spare change. If they wish, we would have peace in Palestine today. But they are not interested in Israel per se. Megabucks care for themselves, and they need Israel in order to keep the American Jews together, supporting them. That is why they do not mind bloodshed in Palestine. Even a bloody regional war does not scare them." Shamir concluded, "In my opinion, megabucks, rather than forces of Kabbalah, move the events in the Middle East. It is not magic, just money, but a lot of money. They do not rule America or Israel, but they exercise a lot of influence. 50 multi-billionaires united in one framework present a very real force in the world." Of course, Shamir does not have the picture precisely right. The Bronfman-centered megagroup is but one component of an insane and desperate element within the transatlantic financial establishment that is now pressing for a clash of civilizations as a mean of responding to the collapse of their global financial empire, and the threat of a new set of Eurasia-centered cooperative arrangements among nations supplanting their power. One Belt, One Road. And as far as the mega puzzle is concerned, Shamir has solved the mystery. No wonder Mossad boss Yatom scolded his Washington-based underling with the warning, "This is not something we use mega for." And that's the end of that article. And just to close out this video, we'll return back to the slides about Unit 8200 and the Talpiot program. Again, you can see that the mega group is only one aspect of a large network, and it is all generally aimed at promoting the interests of these neoconservatives and the Likud party of Israel in order to basically conquer and take over the greater Middle East as part of the Greater Israel Project, and basically take all that real estate for themselves by military force, using the United States as their dummy, right, and getting the dumb Americans, the dumb illiterate warmongering Americans, to go and do the work for them. But we've already fallen for that too many times, and we're not going to fall for it again. So security grows out of a mushroom cloud. Samson option 0.1. This was subterfuge, rumors of warmongering and bombs. This took place from the mid 1800s to mid 1900s, when Israel was just sort of being formed. And again, people don't even know, but it was basically the Havara Agreement, which was originally agreed to by a certain leader of Germany back in the 1930s to allow German Jews to leave the country and essentially with their wealth and go to Israel in the new, basically, which was a protectorate set up by the British, right, with the Balfour Agreement, right. But anyway, continuing on. Samson option 1.0, spying, false flag assassinations, and the macro nuclear threat. This was from the 1950s to the 1970s. Samson option 2.0, technology transfer, false flag terrorism, and tactical micro nukes. This was the 80s to the 9/11 era. And now Samson option 3.0, mass MK Ultra, ConOps, global Talpiot / Unit 8200, and kill switch diplomacy from now into the future with a question mark. And it's when we focus on the topics like I've been covering on this channel since the very beginning that we will address that question mark right there, and we will know how far into the future this shenanigan goes, because it's up to us to either let it keep continuing or to stop it. And it's nothing that violence can ever fix. It is something that has to be resolved within the soul of the humankind and within the mind of the people. And it's on that level that we have to operate, on the metaphysical level. That is the only way that this war can be won, period. Economics. Fire up the firms with a little 9/11. This is a quote by Netanyahu from APEC 2018. Now there are new industries. Israel is literally, how can I say this? Israel is literally driving the world. I'm talking about autonomous vehicles. Israel is a world leader in autonomous vehicles. 500 tech companies that sprang up almost instantaneously. And one of them, Mobileye, up there on the left, was just sold to Intel for the paltry sum of $15 billion. But the interesting thing is that Intel said to them, here are the keys to our 30 worldwide autonomous vehicle businesses. You run it. Israeli technology is driving the world. And one last industry, there are many more, but one more that you're all familiar with, you have bank accounts. You should, okay? Well, you don't want anyone hacking into them, right? Or into your cars or into the planes you ride. You need cybersecurity. Everybody needs cyber. Israel has become a world leader in cybersecurity. So what percentage do we get of the world global investment in cybersecurity, in private investment in cybersecurity? We're 1/10 of the 1% of the world's population, and we get a whopping 20% of global private investment in cyber. We're punching 200 times above our weight. Not 2 times, not 10 times, not 100 times, 200 times above our weight. That's very strong. The Shock Doctrine, 9/11, Global War on Terror, and the Israeli Cyber Mall. And this is basically a series of references that he is providing, the author of these slides. You can follow up if you like. Diplomacy, kill switch, civilian carrot, cyber stick. This is another quote by Benjamin Netanyahu at APEC 2018. Now here's how the dots connect. Because we have this tremendous capacity for security and intelligence, and because we have this tremendous capacity for civilian technology, for making the lives of people richer, safer, more productive, many countries are coming to Israel because they want to share with us these benefits. And that creates the third great change, which is a flourishing of Israel's diplomatic relations around the world. When I joined this foreign service 105 years ago as the DCM to this city, Washington, the number 2 in our embassy, I think we had about 80 or 90 countries with whom we had diplomatic relations. Now the number is 160, and there are very few countries left. We went to Argentina, to Colombia, to Mexico, and they say, come back, we want more. That is changing. All these countries are coming to us. India, China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, all of them. Azerbaijan, Muslim countries. First time I visited Australia, tremendous. Far away though, so we're coloring the world blue. And you know what? The numbers. You remember people talked about Israel's isolation? Pretty soon the countries that don't have relations with us, they're going to be isolated. Those who talk about boycotting Israel will boycott them. And so this slide, the author says, what do we do about the biggest security breach in history? Number one, vigorously practice, preserve, protect, and defend our First Amendment protected rights. Number two, make boycott, divestment, and sanctions an issue of global national security and economics. Number three, push hard for 9/11 truth, justice, peace, freedom, and dignity. Number four, permaculturalize the Pentagon, Eco-Army Corps of Engineers version of Talpiot, which he puts in quotes, admittedly utopian. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but it sounds, I guess, nice in theory. And here, basically the final slide, speak truth diplomacy. It's a quote by Justice Louis Brandeis, concurrence in Whitney versus California, Supreme Court opinion from 1927. Quote, those who won our independence believed that the final end of the state was to make men free to develop their faculties, and that in its government the deliberative forces should prevail over the arbitrary. They valued liberty both as an end and as a means. They believed liberty to be the secret of happiness, and courage to be the secret of liberty. They believe that freedom to think as you will and to speak as you think are means that indispensable to the discovery and spread of political truth, that, without free speech and assembly, discussion would be futile, that with them, discussion affords ordinarily adequate protection against the dissemination of noxious doctrine, that the greatest menace to a freedom is an inert people, that public discussion is a political duty, and that this should be a fundamental principle of the American government. They recognized the risks to which all human institutions are subject, but they knew that order cannot be secured merely through fear of punishment for its infraction, that it is hazardous to discourage thought, hope, and an imagination, that fear breeds repression, that repression breeds hate, and that hate menaces stable government, that the path of safety lies in the opportunity to discuss freely supposed grievances and proposed remedies, and the fitting remedy for evil counsels is good ones. Believing in the power of reason as applied through public discussion, they eschewed silence coerced by law, the argument of force in its worst form. Recognizing the occasional tyrannies of governing majorities, they amended the Constitution so that free speech and assembly should be guaranteed. End quote. And there's resources for his slides. And that's my video today. You know, basically, again, I still have a lot of support for Trump. I think he's done a great job. I believe in the 5D chess narrative because it is the simplest explanation to the facts and the evidence that we've been presented. But I just want to bring this information, number one, because it appears to be the empirical truth, and it is very relevant to a whole slew of different topical discussions happening today about Epstein and potential war against Iran and, you know, Trump and America first and the whole rest of it. And I think that this is a big key, and the fact that I didn't know about it indicates that it's being hidden pretty well, because there's not to be too bombastic, but there's not a whole lot of things on the internet that I haven't heard about that I'm interested in hearing about, you know, and maybe that's a bias and perception, but I was surprised to find that I did not actually know this beforehand. And so, yeah, happy to bring that. If you guys enjoyed this, got any value out of it, please hit the like button, leave a comment, let me know what your response is, whether you think this is all a bunch of anti-Semitic nonsense or whether you think that there's a real problem in the upper echelons of the intelligence establishment, and that in order to bring peace to the world, which is what our goal is, and in order for us to live free, which is also what our goal is, we need to address this. And the longer we stick our heads in the sand and ignore the true history of this country, the more that we're just going to keep digging that hole, and it's going to get us in a worse position until that aforementioned awakening and revolution happens. And luckily, it's happening, thanks to us and having the courage to lose that fear and have that conversation. So on that note, I hope you guys have a great day, a great evening, a great life, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.
Ah.